tonight. Legal fireworks looms over the Naira swap controversy. 10 states of the Federation approached the Supreme Court, asking it to declare the president's directive on the matter unconstitutional. It's a race against time as candidates in next weekend's presidential election storm Borno, Adamawa and Lagos states in a bid to gather more support and woo voters ahead of the poll. All is set for the 2023 general elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu declares as he tours training centers for ad hoc staff and election result collation centers in the nation's capital. And the United States accused Russia of committing war crimes in Ukraine. Vice President Kamala Harris cites gruesome acts of murder, torture, rape, and deportation by the Kremlin.
And on business news, Nigeria's forex reserves maintain downtrend for the 5th consecutive week as gross reserve position now stands at $36.78 billion.
On sports news tonight, search and rescue workers find Ghana midfielder Christian Atsu dead under the rubble of his home almost 2 weeks after a devastating earthquake in Turkey.
The coming days may present new twists in the Naira swap controversy as the uncertainty surrounding the matter appears to be deepening. This comes as 10 states of the Federation have approached the Supreme Court, asking it to declare the directive by the president on the Naira swap policy as unconstitutional. On Thursday, President Muhammadu Buhari had directed the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to allow the old 200 Naira denomination circulate side by side with the old note until April the 10th. He, however, maintained that the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes will no longer be legal tender, in spite of a ruling by the apex court that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes remain legal tender pending its ruling on the suit filed by some states on February the 22nd. Edo and Bayelsa states had approached the apex court to be joined in the suit in support of the federal government. This latest suit was filed by the Attorneys General of Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara, Ondo, Ekiti, Katsina, Ogun, Cross River, Lagos and Sokoto State. It has the Attorney General of the Federation, the Attorneys General of Edo and Bayelsa States as defendants. Meanwhile, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has called for calm after yesterday's violent demonstration in parts of Lagos State as a result of the persisting Naira scarcity. The governor made the call in a statewide broadcast today. He also challenged players in the financial services value chain, especially POS operators, to stop taking advantage of the situation to extort Nigerians.
Remain calm at this time and avoid all forms of violence, arson or rioting, even in the face of difficulties and frustration that are being faced by all. Violence and destruction should not and will not be the answer. We have noticed with dismay the rampant incidents surrounding some of the players in the financial services value chain, especially POS agents and operators, as well as petrol station attendants in some places, who have taken the current challenges to mean an opportunity to extort hard-working and law-abiding Lagosians with extorted services charges on funds withdrawal and sale at the various petrol stations. Let me appeal to those involved in such behavior to desist from such sharp practices. It is especially in difficult times like this that we all need to be our brothers and our sisters' keeper and do everything that we can to contribute to lessening the hardship faced by our fellow Lagosians. This is not the period to sacrifice empathy, compassion, and humanity on the altar of profits and exotic money-making. And to my good people of Lagos, please resist the opportunists who seek to take advantage of the anger and frustration that we're all feeling to hike the situation and to foment trouble amongst us.
Now to political campaigns. It's 7 days to the presidential election, and ahead of that crucial contest, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, believes there is need to consolidate on last weekend's rally as he visited the International Trade Fair complex to continue his engagement with traders there. Addressing supporters who trooped out in their numbers to receive him, Mr. Obi said he was there to share his plans to build a nation where every citizen will have a sense of belonging and aspire to reach any height. He also made known to them his vision for tackling challenges of power and unemployment.
The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, makes his way into the International Trade Fair complex in the Ojo area of Lagos, where his supporters take up every available space to hear from him. Before long, Mr. Obi emerges and the ovation that greets his arrival on the stage is deafening. Without wasting time, he goes straight to inform the people here about how he hopes to address the nation's power conundrum and the other challenges bedeviling the nation.
By producing enough food, we are going to support manufacturing. By ensuring that power becomes a thing of the past. I want you to take what I'm saying. Those who are saying there's nothing difficult in power. I was in Egypt. I was in 3 countries that have changed power in the past 3 years, and those 4 countries are not better than Nigeria. So we're going to solve it. We will make sure that we have agricultural products that will support our industries.
The Labour Party presidential candidate also outlines his plans for building a country that works for everyone.
My commitment is to build a new Nigeria where there is security of life and property, where there will be rule of law, where there will be opportunity for the youth and women to be able to thrive, in Nigeria where I will make sure that women and youth are by law entitled to 50% of all the positions, both in government and in corporate world, so we can start building this country that is inclusive, a Nigeria where they will move people from consumption to production.
For this supporter, Mr. Peter Obi represents a breath of fresh air and believes Nigeria stands to benefit from his presidency.
The structure of Labour Party is the structure that can revive Nigeria, the structure that can make Nigeria a beautiful bride before other countries in the world.
As the countdown to the D-Day begins, the Labour Party presidential candidate leaves this arena, assured that his message is well taken and that they will cast their votes for him.
While the Labour Party presidential flag bearer was busy campaigning in Lagos, a group rooting for his election today trooped out in the nation's capital to drum support for him. The group held a solidarity rally marching from the Unity Fountain to Banex commercial area in Abuja in solidarity with Mr. Obi as well as the CBN Naira redesign policy. They are optimistic that Mr. Obi will emerge victorious at the presidential election.
It's a week to the presidential election, and members of the Peter Obi support group in Abuja have converged on the Unity Fountain for a rally in support of their candidate. Dressed in the official colors of the party, they defied the scorching sun, singing and dancing. One after another, leaders of the group addressed the supporters, asking residents of the FCT to vote for Mr. Obi.
Today, we are doing what we call the last push. In the next 5-6 days, we will touch every grain of sand in this Nigeria. We talk to everybody. All our members are all over the place. The rally that is happening here today is happening in all the state capitals, is happening in all the local governments. That people, the people, we don't call them structure because Nigerian idea of structure is structure of corruption. We don't want structure of corruption. We want our people to be able to decide who is their president.
This obedient movement is an organic movement. We don't really have to mobilize that much. What is happening to us in Nigeria, there's no need to tell you. So there's nothing special I need to do for the women. They come out en masse because they are the hardest hit by this failing economy, failing security, insecurity, and what have you.
The nation's capital is not left out of the cash crunch as residents constantly besiege banks and cash points to get the new notes. Nevertheless, the Peter Obi support group insists that the Naira redesign policy will stop vote buying.
There is something that is given. Vote buying will be hugely reduced, which is the best thing that can happen to this country. The citizenry of this country, we are highly impoverished. So when they keep you hungry, they give you 5,000, 8,000, you now think with your stomach and you go and vote for nonsense. But when they don't give you that money, you can think well. And you vote for your future for the next 8 years. And for every one of us, I am feeling the heat. Everybody in Nigeria is feeling the heat. What I can say is, please hold on. Like I said earlier, when you want to give birth, you push, it's painful. But once the baby comes out, you forget about the pain and there's joy all through your life. That's what we are expecting. That's what's going to happen.
Shortly after they take to the streets to mobilize more support for their favored candidate, they plan to hold more of this across the country.
Staying with presidential campaigns, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu's campaign trail today moved to Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, and home state of his running mate, Kashim Shettima, to woo voters ahead of next Saturday. The party's leadership and other top members, as well as a large crowd of supporters, thronged the El Kanemi Warriors Stadium, holding and waving the APC broom symbol in support of his presidential bid.
It is a homecoming for the vice presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Kashim Shettima, as the party's presidential campaign team lands in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. One after the other, the governor of the state and vice presidential candidate take turn to address the gathering.
The people of Borno State, I urge you to troop out on Saturday, the 25th of this month, as you have done for this rally, to show appreciation to Senator Tinubu by casting your votes for him. You must ensure you vote all candidates of the All Progressives Congress. The faith of Borno people in APC has been strengthened with my nomination as the vice presidential candidate of the party. This party will ensure that we provide food for all Nigerians. Scarcity of food will be a thing of the past.
The speeches set the tone for the event as the national chairman of the party hands over the party's flag to Governor Babagana Zulum, who is contesting for another term in office. Overwhelmed with joy, the APC presidential candidate appreciates the gathering before announcing his plans for the state and the country.
The economy, we will develop Nigeria throughout the country. Those who knew Lagos would be able to differentiate what we take over in 1999.
Before hitting the El Kanemi Warriors Stadium for the rally, the APC presidential candidate stopped over at the palace of the Shehu of Borno.
Without challenge, we cannot learn. These challenges has taught us great lessons. I can assure you that security will top our agenda and Nigeria will see peace and stability, in which the Bono people and the environment will be rich for it.
Security is our major problem. In the first instance, we have been fighting it seriously, very seriously.
As the rally comes to an end, the APC presidential campaign train will be looking forward to storming the city of Lagos with the same message of renewed hope ahead of the presidential elections.
In part 2, after the break, we'll have more on presidential campaigns. Plus, Rivers State will vote for unity, fairness and equity, Governor Nyesom Wike declares, urges the people to elect a presidential candidate that represents the interests of Nigerians. That's in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Legal fireworks looms over the Naira swap controversies. 10 states of the Federation approached the Supreme Court, asking it to declare the President's directive on the matter unconstitutional. It's a race against time as candidates in next weekend's presidential election storm Borno, Adamawa and Lagos states in a bid to gather more support and woo voters ahead of the poll. All is set for the 2023 general elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu declares as he tours training centers for adult staff and election result collation centers in Abuja. And the United States accuses Russia of committing war crimes in Ukraine. Vice President Kamala Harris cites gruesome acts of murder, torture, rape, and deportation. Political parties have thrown their weight behind the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar. The parties include the Action People's Party, the National Rescue Movement, and the Allied People's Movement. Now, the parties made their decision known at the grand finale of the PDP presidential campaign, which held in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, who has been following the Atiku Okowa campaigns, has this report.
It's the grand finale of the People's Democratic Party presidential campaign holding at the Ribadu Square in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. Mr. Atiku Abubakar and his running mate, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, alongside the campaign team, arrived to a rousing cheer from party supporters. The campaign is attended by governors of Akwa Ibom, Sokoto, Edo, Bauchi, and the host governor, Modu Fintiri, and they urged the supporters to ensure victory for Mr. Atiku Abubakar.
Today, we've seen you in large numbers. Next Saturday, we want you to translate what we've seen today to votes.
Atiku will come and do the job of unifying us, inshallah.
The national chairman of the PDP and the vice presidential candidate assured the people that the party will work to bring dividend of democracy to Nigerians.
We know that many of our farmers are worried if they can even produce from their farm because of the insecurity and the fact that they cannot have access to fertilizers because of the high cost. Do not worry. Help is coming on the way. And that help is Atiku Abubakar.
The PDP gets a boost as 5 political parties collapse their structures to support Mr. Abubakar. The party also received some decantees, including some members of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council. These developments give Mr. Atiku Abubakar a sense of victory in the 2023 presidential election as he commends Nigerians across the country for their support.
Let me promise Nigerians that we shall never disappoint you. If you give us your mandate, we promise to live by our promises to make sure that we have a united country, that we have a peaceful country, that we have a buoyant economy for our country, and that we have the best education for our children. And also, we devolve powers to our states and local governments with corresponding resources.
Except for Rivers and Taraba states, Mr. Atiku Abubakar has toured 34 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, gathering support from the electorate across the country. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Staying with politics for this time in Rivers State, where Governor Nyesom Wike says there's need for the PDP in the state to vote for a presidential candidate that represents the interest of all Nigerians. Governor Wike said unity, fairness and equity will be the driving force in the decision of the state party members to elect a candidate in next weekend's election. The governor was speaking during a rally in Obiakpo local government area to conclude the local government campaigns of the party in the state.
This is the grand finale of the Rivers State People's Democratic Party campaign for the 2023 general elections, and it's holding in Obiakpo, which happens to be the local government area of Governor Nyesom Wike. The venue is the campus of the Port Harcourt Polytechnic at Rumuola, where supporters receive with excitement the PDP team led by their kinsman, Governor Nyesom Wike. Some local government and zonal PDP stakeholders are confident that Governor Wike's performance will pave the way for victory at the polls.
When you have a good product, you don't make a big noise. PDP, under the leadership of Governor Nyesom Wike in this state, has done very remarkably well.
The best party gift you can give to the performing governor of Rivers State is to see to the election of Sim Fubara, our candidate for the state.
The PDP governorship candidate promises to continue with the remodeling of Obiakpo if elected governor come March 11.
I will continue to add major projects that will continue to transform the face and faces of Obiakpo. Every single ongoing project will be completed. Security paramount in Obiakpo.
Addressing his people, Governor Wike encourages them to vote for the governorship candidate whom he says supported his administration to succeed.
You have been of tremendous support. Each time I call on you, you have always been there for us. So I thank you, because this appears to be my last address to you in a rally as the governor of Rivers State.
At the federal level, the governor says the PDP in Rivers will vote for unity, fairness and equity.
We are going to vote for unity of Nigeria. We are going to vote for equity, fairness and justice. And that is why I salute the APC governors who came out to say, look, for this country to be united, for this country to move together as a country, as one united country, that there is a need for power to shift.
After touring the 23 local government areas, the PDP in Rivers State appears set for the elections which start next weekend with the presidential and National Assembly elections and the governorship and House of Assembly polls in March.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigeria's forex reserves maintain downward trend for the 5th consecutive week. Its gross reserve position now stands at $36.78 billion. That's on Business News. Join us again. More on campaigns in the states. The deputy governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Dixon Asonye, and the party's chairman in Abia State, Mr. Chukwudi Abegonwe, have declared support for the candidacy of the Labour Party governorship candidate in Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti. At a meeting with the Labour Party executive at the party secretariat in Aba North local government area, the chieftains pledged to work for the victory of Dr. Oti in the polls.
The Labour Party governorship candidate in Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti, is at the party's secretariat in Aba North local government area. And the aim of the visit is to meet with some chieftains of the Social Democratic Party, receive the campees, reel out his campaign manifesto, and deliberate on how to deliver the party's candidates during the forthcoming general elections. The deputy governorship candidate and the chairman of the Social Democratic Party in the state give reasons for their decision to stand with Dr. Oti.
Nobody will pressurize me, nobody, it is our ambition. And we went behind us. We think on that direction. We come out with idea, and we say today is going to be the day we are officially handing over SDP Abia State to Maazi, the new principal, incoming governor of Abia State.
What we are doing it because we want to serve this state. We've looked at all the candidates from A to Z. We know the truth. If we must tell ourselves the truth. There's nobody like Dr. Alex Oti.
The LP governorship candidate makes a donation of a brand new Hummer bus to the party and welcomes the campees from the SDP.
SDP is no longer in the race for the governorship of Abia State. This race is actually for us to lose, because at the risk of sounding immodest, it's difficult to see that other parties have presented any candidate that can equate the Labour Party candidate.
After the meeting, Dr. Oti and his team visit 7 markets in Aba, the commercial nerve center of the state, followed by a rally attended by party stakeholders at the Recreation Club, Aba. The Labour Party is confident that this development will boost the chances of its governorship candidate to become the next governor of Abia State.
In Ogun State, the ADC governorship candidate, Mr. Olubi Otegbeye, says the people of Ipokia have resolved to vote massively for him come March the 11th. He says the people have affirmed that it is a turn of Ogun West Senatorial District to produce the next governor of the state. He mentioned this during his campaign rally in Ipokia, the headquarters of Ipokia local government area of Ogun State.
In spite of the ongoing Naira swap challenges in the country, the African Democratic Congress governorship candidate in Ogun State, Mr. Olubi Otegbeye, and his running mate, Mr. Olatunde Awonuga, are not relenting in their campaign tour of the 20 local government areas. The team is in Ipokia local government area to deliver the party's manifesto to the people. Ipokia, made up of mostly rural communities, is of Yewa extraction in Ogun West Senatorial District. The 2-day tour of Ipokia kicks off from Ihubo, then to Ilashe, Ifoyin-Tedo, Ajegunle, and the popular border town with the Republic of Benin, Idiroko, and Agoshasha, where the governorship candidate pays homage to traditional rulers in the area. On day 2, the campaign continues in several other communities before landing in Ipokia, the headquarters of the local government area. And in all the communities visited, the people expressed their joy and showed their support as they turn out in their large numbers to welcome him.
We have known him for the past 20 years in this political gathering. He's a very nice person to us, especially to Bell Ward.
With the level and the quality of representation that we have here, we rest assured that our candidate for the governorship will do same thing. We are on our way to winning.
Mr. Otegbeye assures the people of better days ahead if he is elected into office.
The Ikoja people have also decided, without shadow of doubt, that this is a time for Yewa to produce government. Correct. Everybody across this local government, they are united that they are going to cast their vote for ADC on governorship election. And I am sure that with their result, for the first time, Yewa will occupy Okemoson.
The African Democratic Congress is confident that Ogun State will return to the path of development if its governorship candidate, Mr. Olubiyi Otegbeye, is given a chance to rule.
Ahead of the commencement of the general elections, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, says all is set for the polls, beginning with the national polls next Saturday. He maintains that neither the ongoing Naira scarcity nor protests in some states will make the commission postpone the exercise. The INEC boss gave the assurances when he visited some training centers for ad hoc staff and the International Conference Center, where the results of the presidential elections will be collated and announced.
The INEC chairman, alongside national commissioners, are visiting the International Conference Center, ICC, in Abuja to inspect the state of the facility.
What is going to happen?
The ICC is where the presidential elections results will be collated and announced.
Of the results for the presidential.
This seemingly empty hall is expected to become a beehive of activities, beginning with the signing of the peace accord by 18 presidential candidates.
I must also add that the National Peace Committee is going to use this venue on Wednesday, the 22nd, for the signing of the peace accord for the election. So by the time you come here next, you will see a lot more happening in terms of branding of the venue, furnishing and activities. So there will be a place for agents of political parties. They will be prominent there because they have to see and observe the process and ask questions as the need arises. We'll have a place for all the accredited national and international observers, accredited national and international media.
The INEC chairman also visited other places within the facility, such as the call center, where INEC will receive and process calls from field officers, and the press center, where periodic news conferences will hold. Away from the facility, the INEC chairman also made a stopover at one of the training centers for ad hoc staff in Abuja.
Good morning, class.
Here, National Youth Service Corps members are trained as field officers for next Saturday's presidential and National Assembly polls.
We are going to do this training bearing in mind that we have
the INEC chairman is confident that the elections will hold as scheduled, despite the ongoing Naira scarcity and the protests in some states.
The central bank has assured us that, as I keep saying, we will not suffer any encumbrances in that regard. So there are no issues with respect to that. On what is happening around the country, the protest that we have mentioned is a security matter. And they have assured, that's the security agencies, assured and reassured us that they will secure the environment for elections to hold peacefully nationwide. So we have no issues in that respect.
It's exactly 1 week to the presidential and National Assembly elections, an exercise which will afford eligible Nigerians the opportunity to elect their president and federal lawmakers for the next 4 years.
To infrastructure development in Yobe State, where Governor Mema Labuni has flagged off the construction of the 5th ultra-modern market in Gaidam at the cost of 3.8 billion naira. He has also commissioned 2 primary healthcare centers and a model school to increase school enrollment in the state. The activities were all conducted in Gaydam, one of the ancient commercial cities in the state, where they also held the Yobe East Zonal Rally in support of APC candidates in the state.
Gaydam, in the northern part of Yobe State, is hosting the campaign train of the All Progressives Congress as Governor Mai Malabuni is accompanied by the President of the Senate, Mr. Ahmed Lawan, and former Governor Ibrahim Gaydam to the commissioning of several state projects. The projects include 2 primary healthcare centers, fully furnished mega school, as well as the Gaydam ultra-modern market, which the governor laid a foundation.
As you are aware, we have constructed mega schools, established primary healthcare centers and modern markets in the 3 senatorial zones of the state. Therefore, the activities line up today bears testimony to our unrelenting effort towards economic rejuvenation and social cohesion with opportunities for self-actualization of the citizenry.
The governor also ordered the rehabilitation of the Gaydam Road that links Niger Republic to boost the economic activities between the 2 countries.
I therefore direct the Ministry of Works of the Yobe State Road and Road Maintenance Agency to liaise with the Office of the Secretary to the State Government towards the rehabilitation of Gaydam to Mena Soroa Road, Garin Gada Side and Gaydam Bukarti Road.
The project formed the basis for the Yobe East Zonal Rally of the All Progressives Congress.
This is one of the best rallies, and with this kind of remarkable welcome, we expect you to come out en masse to vote for all our candidates. You voted for us during 2008, 2011, 2015 and 2019. Therefore, I appeal to you to vote for APC from top to bottom during the 2023 general election.
The APC leadership in the state is confident of securing the votes that will ensure victory for candidates of the party across board.
To security matters now, 3 police officers have been killed after gunmen invaded Ogidi Police Divisional Headquarters in Idemili North Local Government Area of Anambra State. It was gathered that the attackers invaded the police facility in large numbers in the early hours of today with explosive devices. A statement by the command's police spokesperson, Mr. Ikenga Tochukwu, explains that the hoodlums started shooting sporadically on approaching the facility and hauled improvised explosive devices and petrol bombs at it. He adds that the State Police Command has reinforced security in the council following the incident, with operations ongoing to fish out the perpetrators of the crime. The police spokesperson deplored the loss of lives and other valuables, saying the force remains resolute in fighting the elements who carry out attacks across Anambra State. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Willie Bong has details.
Thanks, Melinda. Nigeria's FX reserves has maintained its downward trend for the 5th consecutive week. According to latest data from the central bank, the gross reserve position declined by $42.21 million week on week to close at $36.78 billion as of February the 16th. Meanwhile, credit ratings agency Moody's says the central bank may delay repayments of foreign exchange to banks due to shortage of dollars. Meanwhile, forex market trading activity at the FMDQ exchange was mostly positive this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets increased by 36.53% week on week to over $600 million. Zooming in, we see total value of transactions at the INE window rose by 46.49% to $503.38 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market rose slightly by 4.82% to about $113, despite a decline in the futures market. Meanwhile, the value of the Naira was unchanged at 461 Naira 31 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window. Now, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, reassures the public that banks will remain open as part of efforts to cushion the hardship caused by the Naira scarcity. In a statement, the CIBN president, Mr. Ken Okpara, says the institute is in contact with a body of bank CEOs to address the current challenges. Mr. Okpara adds that banks will continue to ensure that adequate security measures are in place to protect staff and customers. African leaders have pledged to take immediate action to integrate the recommendations from the newly released Africa's Macroeconomic Performance and Outlook Report into their national development plans. The AfDB president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says African economies have shown impressive resilience as most countries maintained a positive growth rate in 2022, with stable outlook in 2023 and 2024. Mr. Adesina, however, calls for strong and collective support to Africa to help the continent navigate the challenges it faces, especially debt burden and debt vulnerabilities. Now, the local bus posted its first weekly decline in the month of February, following renewed risk-off sentiments by investors. The loss recorded on the final trading day proved sufficient to wipe out the cumulative gains of 0.4% as of Thursday, driven by sell-offs on Airtel Africa. The all-share index shed almost 1% week-on-week, and the year-to-date moderated to about 5%, but still in positive territory. Looking at activity levels, trading volume and value decreased by 20.1% and 22.3% week-on-week. Across sectors, we see insurance, oil and gas, consumer goods and industrial goods indexes advanced, while the banking index declined. Top performer for the week, Triple G, maintained its position on the gainers chart leaderboard, followed by Living Trust Mortgage Bank, while CWG PLC led the underperformers. The trio of GTCO, UBA and FBN Holdings contributed 33.2% and 19.03% to the total equity volume and value traded in the week. Meanwhile, the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the trading week in positive territory. The unlisted equities index rose nearly 1% as the exchange recorded a slight gain of over 8 billion naira. Also, turnover was quite impressive. Volume traded climbed by about 1,700% to 94.58 million units traded, while value rose by 175% to more than 83 million naira. Geofluids PLC led the gainers chart, followed by Central Securities Clearing System. There were no decliners this week. And that's it on business news. It's back to Melinda for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. On the international scene, in a few days, it will be a year since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has accused Russia of committing crimes against humanity in Ukraine. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Harris accused Russia of gruesome acts of murder, torture, rape, and deportation since its invasion. She also told the conference that the perpetrators of alleged Russian crimes in Ukraine must be held accountable. She cited terrible atrocities during the war in Ukraine, including the scores of bodies found in Bucha shortly after the invasion and the bombing of a theater in Mariupol. World leaders at the conference have called for long-term support for Ukraine. The UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also argued that Western allies must start planning for the future security of Ukraine, as well as sending the weapons the country needs to defend itself now. A family of 3, including a child, were rescued from the rubble of a building in Hatay, southern Turkey this morning, 296 hours after the earthquake. The mother and father survived, but the child later died of dehydration. 2 other members of the family, an elder sister and a twin, did not make it. Turkey's death toll has climbed to almost 40,000, but is expected to rise given that 264,000 apartments were destroyed in the quake and many people are still unaccounted for. In Syria, authorities put the death toll at 5,800, although the figure has not been revised for days now. Humanitarian aid donated by European Union has arrived in Damascus to help people affected by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake which ripped through Turkey and Syria almost 2 weeks ago. The 50 tons of aid items which arrived in Lebanon's capital Beirut from Italy before being taken to Syria include clothes, tents, medical equipment and food. Most of the fatalities in Syria have been in the northwest, an area controlled by the insurgents who are at war with President Bashar al-Assad in a conflict that has complicated efforts to send aid. Italy's foreign envoy, Massimiliano Di Antonio, is urging the international community to come together to help, regardless of political differences. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of sports. Ayotunde Balogun is standing by with details.
Well, many thanks, Melinda. And starting off with the news of Christian Atsu. Sad news, of course, where Ghana Football Association has confirmed that the former Chelsea and Newcastle United midfielder has been found dead under the rubble of his home almost 2 weeks after a devastating earthquake in Turkey. Atsu was caught up in a 7.8 magnitude quake that rocked Turkey and Syria on February the 6th, killing more than 43,000 people in both countries. The search and the rescue workers found Atsu's body where he was staying at a block of high-rise luxury flats that toppled over. The 31-year-old scored the last of his 33 career goals for Hatayspor in Turkey's Super League on February the 5th, hours before the earthquake struck. Football enthusiasts admitted his death is indeed a big loss to Ghana.
This is a good soul taken out of the football industry. This is a good soul taken out of the community and taken out of a country.
The other day I saw a certain guys playing, these small posts. One of them mentioned his name, Atu, and I asked him, did you call Atu? He said, no, his player is Kinsey Atu. And I think we have lost a big player in Ghana.
I think he's one of the greatest players we had in Ghana. He was my mentor. I learned from him so much. So when I heard the news, I felt so bad.
His style is different. It's few in the world. And it's a big blow. It's a big blow. Kids supposed to watch him, to pick his skill, his cutting edges. I miss the guy already.
In the English Premier League, Arsenal FC have scored twice in stoppage time after coming from behind twice to beat Aston Villa 4-2 to regain their lead at the top of the table. Manchester City lost ground on the Gunners after being held to a 1-1 draw at Nottingham Forest. But Chelsea's pro form under manager Graham Potter continued as a trademark free kick from James Ward-Prowse earned Southampton a surprise victory at Stamford Bridge. Manor Solomon handed Fulham the advantage in the race for European qualification as he secured a smash and grab victory with a late goal away at Brighton and Hove Albion. Everton earned a monumental victory over Leeds United to climb out of the relegation zone. Bournemouth climbed out of the relegation zone as well as Marcus Tavernier's goal helped them to a narrow win over Wolverhampton Wanderers. A consortium led by Qatar banker Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani has submitted an offer to take over Manchester United FC in a deal worth $6 billion. The consortium says the bid will be completely debt-free via Sheikh Jassim's 9-2 Foundation, which will look to invest in the football teams, the training center, the stadium itself and wider infrastructure, the fan experience and the communities the club supports. If the deal for the 20-time English champions succeeds, it will exceed the biggest sports deal so far, which was the $5.2 billion paid for Chelsea by a consortium led by the American Todd Burley. The Ineos Group, headed by British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe, have vowed to make Manchester United the #1 club in the world after submitting a bid to become majority owners of the Premier League giants. Sir Ratcliffe is keen to expand the sporting portfolio that already includes French side Nice and Swiss team FC Lausanne, as well as the cycling team Ineos Grenadiers. Now, the 70-year-old is one of Britain's wealthiest people, with an estimated net worth of $15 billion following the success of his global chemical company. The FIFA Women's World Cup trophy has begun its game-changing global tour ahead of the competition scheduled to be jointly hosted by Australia and New Zealand later this year. Now, the trophy tour, which took off today in Melbourne, Australia, will make its first official stop in Japan on February the 26th. The tour will take the iconic trophy to all 32 of the tournament's participating nations and will inspire people to celebrate the popularity of the women's game. The trophy is expected to arrive in Nigeria come March the 26th. And that's sports news. I'm Ayo Tunde. Balogun, back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Ayo. And the main news again. 10 states of the Federation have approached the Supreme Court asking it to declare President Muhammadu Buhari's directive on Naira swap as unconstitutional. We also informed you that the presidential candidates of the APC, Bola Tinubu, the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, and that of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, today stormed Borno, Adamawa and Lagos states in the bid to gather more support and woo voters ahead of the poll. An INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has declared that all is set for the 2023 general elections as he inspected training centers for ad hoc staff and election results collation center in Abuja, the nation's capital. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.